Alright, good afternoon. Welcome to the LST 325. My name is Corey. I'm the Museum Operations Coordinator here at the USS LST Ship Memorial Inc. I've been here for about 5 years, and I'll be showing you guys around on the USS LST 325. We'll go ahead and get started. So an LST, or a landing ship tank, was designed in World War II to be the largest naval vessel to transport troops, supplies, equipment, and vehicles, such as tanks, trucks, and a variety of different things, directly on the beach during amphibious landings. The United States made 1,051 LSTs in World War II alone, roughly costing $1.3 million in the 1940s to produce. In today's money, you're looking at about $19 million, give or take for inflation, per LST. And we made them right here in Evansville. So right past where we're back over here, there's a grove of trees, which we'll see that as we're going on through the video, so don't worry, you'll see it later. But anyway, back over along the river bend over onto the left was the entire shoreline, was the Evansville shipyard. And we made 167 of these ships right here in Evansville in just under 3 years. So if I did my math right, if you're making them 24/7, every 6 or 7 days a week, then that's roughly, you can have one from the ground up produced in about 6 to 7 days. 20,000 employees working over here at the shipyard. Around 48% of that workforce was women. And we have more than just LSTs going on here in Evansville. Up on the northern side of town, we were making P-47 Thunderbolt fighter planes, over 6,000 of those. And here in Evansville, we were also making over 3 billion 45 caliber bullet shells. Around 97 to 98% of the total 45 caliber shells made for the U.S. war effort were made right here in Evansville. So there's a lot going on here in town. LST that we're on today, the 325, was not built in Evansville. It was originally built in 1942 at the Philadelphia shipyard in Pennsylvania. She was commissioned in 1943, and then she did some training in Africa with Operation Torch, but she really did stretch her legs with the Sicily and Salerno invasions of 1943. And for you guys watching, if we have any military buffs, that's Operation Husky and Avalanche. But also she was a part of Operation Overlord, which you might know better today as D-Day.
I was going to say D-Day.
D-Day, yep, June 6, 1944. And she made 44 trips to D-Day, back and forth until the end of the war. And then she was decommissioned in 1946. And then she was brought back in service in the 50s during the Cold War. And she's a part of what's called DEW line. So DEW, D-E-W, stands for Distance Early Warning. There's a series of radar detection systems up in the Arctic Circle in case of possible nuclear attacks. And this was sent up to Greenland to help make supply runs for that. And she's also part of the Greek Navy from 1964 up until 1999. And we'll see some Greek stuff as we go along here today, and I'll point that out on the tour as we go around. But then a big question was, what's going to happen to the ship after her contract expired? Well, one of 3 things could happen. She could blow up in target practice, she could tore for scrap like a lot of LSTs were, or we could bring her back. And that's what we did. She came back to the United States in 2001, arrived here in Evansville in 2005, and she moved to this location a little bit further up the river, a little bit more closer into the downtown area in 2020. We've been here ever since, and as they say, the rest is history. This area over here, this entire structure is referred to as the bridge. Bridge is the communications tower on ship. So this is where your captain is, this is where your radio rooms are, this is where your navigation is. All this stuff is happening up here. That all glass there at the very tip top of the ship was added after the war, just because the technology back then you just really didn't have in the first place, so you didn't need it. But also, if that was up there in World War II, it'd be a primary target for kamikaze pilots in the Pacific. But either way, that's where we control the ship today. We have a joystick up there. We also have a couple of monitors, gauges, and we have a GPS tracker. So if you want to follow us, head over to lstmemorial.org, and there's a banner up at the top of the page, and you can find LST GPS tracker, and you can follow us where we go, because we still operates. We're the last LST in World War II configuration made in the United States that still works right here in the United States.
That's amazing.
And we're actually heading out to Tennessee this year. We're going to be going to Hendersonville, Tennessee, Ashland City, Tennessee, and Clarksville, Tennessee. And that's going to be between mid-September to mid-October. And find out more information at lstmemorial.org/cruise. And then you can find out more information.
We'll put all those links down in the description.
Yeah. And links will be in the description below.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so also, so back again, so we have some communication stuff's going on here. There's usually I would say anywhere between 30 guys that are in here doing a bunch of things, going around doing communications and everything like that. And they're also helping out with these, your Higgins boats, also known as your LCVPs, your Landcraft Vehicle Personnel. And these are the boats that are used to get the guys up on the beaches at D-Day. So if you're familiar with the movie Saving Private Ryan, these are the boats they're using in that infamous Normandy invasion scene at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we would transport them on big metal arms called davits. Each Higgins boat was originally made of wood or fiberglass. With a steel door on the fronts, they can hold 35 to 40 combat-ready troops, up to 8,000 pounds of cargo, or even a small vehicle like a Willys Jeep, which was really popular back then, would also fit in there. And we would transport them on big metal arms called davits that run on tracks. So you see the track that goes down here, track that goes down there, and it swings the boat out over the waterway from the ship, lowers it down. They throw a huge cargo net that we're going to see a little bit later on down tank deck. And they climb down nests to the boats, and then they go off wherever they need to because they have their own motor in the back. Most LSTs had 2 to 4 Higgins boats, but some even had 6, 4 in the back and 2 up in the fronts. Here we have our wardroom, which is serving as our HQ for tonight's paranormal investigation. But down this hallway and down this hallway, referred to as passageways on the ship, either side have staterooms. Each stateroom could hold 2 officers at one time, but usually each officer has their own room. And here in the middle, we have a shower. Behind that, we have an officer's head, which you might know better as the restroom. So we have some toilets in here, and then there's some showers, as you can see over there. And then down this way is our pharmacist's office, which is also a small pharmacy. So medicine, bandages, first aid supplies can be found in here, and we still use it today, as you can see with the first aid stuff that we have in here. And then this is the yeoman's office, also known as, basically it could serve as a post office. This is where you get paid, where you get your paycheck as a soldier or a sailor. And also, this is where the medical records are kept because the pharmacist is right next door. Now follow me behind this door to probably the most important place in the entire ship. And this is the galley. This is where we get our food. And as you can see today, because we still operate, everything in here still works and still operates just like it did back in World War II. It's just technology's gotten a little bit better over time. We got microwaves now. Yep. And then there's that yeoman's office. There's the front of it right over there. All right. So follow me down this staircase. So, I know a lot of you guys are tuning in because of the paranormal stuff, right? Well, this is an incident right here where my feet are. So, we have a few ghosts on ship, and the main ghost that we have is a guy named Jonathan. Now, Jonathan, we're not exactly sure if he was Greek or American, but he was on the ship during that time period, so about mid-60s up until the 1990s. But either way, he was known for being a very jovial guy, a very jokester guy. He likes to pull pranks on people and things like that, but he also liked to drink a lot. And he was last seen around 3 a.m. in this galley area, the kitchen, trying to wrestle himself something to eat. Well, in the middle of the night, there's not anyone else really up and around except for the people that are up in the communications tower doing watch. But either way, he was last seen coming in here and getting himself something to eat, and then he stumbled down these stairs that I'm on right now, all the way down, busts his head open along the side of the bulkhead or the wall, and is found the next day dead. And so, a lot of the crew have noticed that they've heard footsteps, which is the #1 thing that you'll hear on ship. And I guarantee you, as we're going around, you will hear footsteps tonight. But also the doors opening and closing, sometimes objects flying across rooms. That's a lot more rare. That hasn't really happened that much. But around here, there's been sensations of dizzy, like a sudden dizzy feeling or a pain right in the back of your head. Every now and then, there's also been women who have reported having their hair kind of tugged out a little bit, like not really like pulled, but kind of like playing tugging and stuff like that. But again, that's Jonathan. So he's never done anything malicious or outright evil or mean or anything like that, but just a jokester kind of guy. So that's Jonathan.
All right.
So, over this way, this is the troop head. So this is the restroom. So your toilets, sinks, showers, all that kind of stuff's in here, including the original water heater right back over there.
Oh, wow.
And then in here, this is originally mess deck. So this is where you would originally eat back in World War II. Although today it's a little smaller than what it would have been back in World War II, because this wall that you see over here, this paneling that goes all along the room, was added by the Greeks whenever they used the ship. So they made it a little bit smaller. Whenever it was part of the Greek Navy, it was used as a training vessel. It was never used in active combat, as far as I'm aware. Because the only real resource I have is I've actually talked to a sailor who was in the Greek Navy when the ship was in the Greek Navy and served on this, and he was here last year, and we asked him what it did, and he just said training vessel. So that's it. But so I take his word for it. But this is where you'd have a lot more tables and chairs. Down this way, on the left is a big brown door. That's our meat locker and refrigeration's down there, and we still use it today when we go out on cruise. The right-hand side, that white caged area, used to be the brig for the ship, or jail for the ship. But today we just use it for dry storage. Then at the very tail end, all the way in the back there, is aft steerage, also known as manual steerage, where you can manually steer the ship down there if you really needed to. Usually you had about 4 or 5 guys that'd be down in there. Another, it's not really a hot spot per se, but I have been in an investigation before where we've gone back in here into the storeroom area, because originally past this was the aft 40mm gun storage for the guns up on top. And we're going to go to guns here in a little while. We'll look at those in more depth and everything like that. But this was the stern storage, the aft storage. And the only thing that I remember happening was someone had an SLS camera, and they had it situated to where the camera was facing the doorway. So we go in there, there's a door right there. It was facing the doorway out, like facing out this way. And there was a figure of someone doing something kind of like this motion, which there's a lot of shelves and stuff in there. So I originally thought, oh, that's probably just maybe a spirit of a volunteer or something like that maybe was just helping move some stuff off the shelf or something like that. But then I found out a little bit later on that that's where the stern armory is, and I have a picture actually up in the museum of someone hoisting up one of the clips right up into the ceiling going up to the main deck. So they could have been that too.
Yeah.
But either way, again, that's the only real thing that I've ever really noticed in there. But follow me over this way, and we're going to be heading into take deck.
Got you, baby.
And then this one's interesting. So we'll talk about this here. All right. So welcome to Tank Deck. So back in the day in World War II, we could fit 20 M4 medium Sherman tanks down here. We could fit 30 Stuart light tanks down here. We could fit half tracks, duck Ws, which are amphibious trucks that can drive into the water. We'd even transport train cars on train tracks down here. And back in 1943, apparently, when we were in Sicily, we transported massive herd of donkeys right in here. I wish I had a photo to prove that, but I don't. But it kind of reminds me of that old slogan from the Postal Service: "If it fits, it ships."
Yeah.
And then we're actually going to go and talk about the vehicles here in just a little bit. We'll go towards the front. But I really wanted to highlight this. This is our 1954 Jeep used in the TV movie MASH, that inspired the TV show. And it still works, it still operates, but we were talking about hot spots earlier. This one's really, really heavy, which I'm sure you could probably imagine.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting because this was one of the first times I've ever seen anything remotely like this in my life. Where we were down here and we were trying to do the SS method. We had a stretcher originally at the time, and we brought someone up here to the front of the Jeep, and they had a blindfold on, they had a headset on connected to a spirit box, and we had a couple of people around. But we were basically just shouting a bunch of medical jargon and everything, trying to get someone to come down here. Well, sure enough, we did. And you could hear the very distinct sound all the way from that bulkhead all along this hallway we were just in, all the way downstairs, right here.
Okay.
And we also had cat balls that were set up, cat ball sensors, and they were all going off in sync as if someone was going downstairs. And we eventually met a guy by the name of Doc. We actually haven't, as far as I know, we haven't actually found out his real name, but he just goes by Doc.
Yeah.
But my personal assumption is that he was a surgeon on the ship, because that's usually where he likes to hang out, is the surgeon's room, which we're going to go up there here in just a little while. But so he likes to hang out in there, and that's where the sound originally came from, and then came all the way down here. But I've also heard a couple other people say that they've heard the word corpsman before. So corpsman is basically a nurse, like a battlefield nurse, that they get usually like EMT style training, and usually only done in about 1 to 2 hours. And they kind of just get the basic rundown, and they get a special patch on their arm, and they're sent off with a hearty salute, just hoping for the best. But anyway, but either way, that all happened right over here. So this, I would argue, is very much a hot spot here at the LST, just because, again, it's of what it stands for, not just for the show,
for sure,
but
yeah.
also just the fact that it is a historic vehicle in its own rights. And again, it's just, it's really cool. It's really neat. But the, I asked Doc, I said, we had my friend on the stretcher, and I asked him, I was like, hey, Doc, is he going to be okay? And then you just heard a very dry, he's fine. He's fine. I have other things to read her basically the entire night. And that thing was spiking the entire time. Anywhere we went on ship, it was constantly going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But either way, I was saying about like right here, at the EMF, it was spiking. They had some, the group had it was kind of like a bell looking kind of sensor kind of thing that if something gets really close to it, the bell starts going off.
No,
Yeah.
it's the new dead bell,
Yeah.
which we don't use, we just use a regular bell, so they
Yeah.
have to actually.
But that was situated right here. We had some cat balls lined up, and we also had a REM pod right up there at the top, at the opening. Basically, where that railing is over to the left, that's where the REM pod was. Boy, it got loud in here, because that REM pod was going off like crazy, this bell was ringing like crazy, my EMF thing was going like crazy, and it was really, really, really cool. It got cold, like you could feel like how the temperature changed immediately. It was just really, really neat. So yeah, that all happened in this last investigation. But I know not to put any like ideas or anything in mind or anything like that, but that it did happen. I was here for it, and we got video evidence of it too.
Or something to screw them up or.
They do. So these are tie downs. Oh. So these are tie downs. So the LST is a flat bottom ship, and she's made that way so she can go directly onto the shore and then drop off all equipment and make way back for other runs. Well, out in the middle of the ocean, she has a tendency to sway back and forth, called listing, and she can list anywhere from 45 up to 60 degrees in some cases. So you tie everything down in here, so that way it's not sliding and hitting the bulkheads or anything like that. So you had 2 in the back, 2 in the fronts, and they're tied down. We used to have one right over there on the wall.
Turn it to tighten
Yep,
it, yeah.
that's it. So, one of the most popular displays that we have on ship, as you can very well probably imagine, is a Lego model made by our friends at Brickmania of, wouldn't you guess it, an LST. And Brickmania took over a year to make this. There's tens of thousands of pieces involved. And it's really cool just seeing how that you can see how it was actually used back in World War II. And something that's really neat about these is Lego doesn't make any actual military sets, like official military sets. That's just their company policy, which is great. I commend them for that. Brickmania has exclusive rights from Lego to use Lego pieces, but they also have exclusive rights from the military, because military colors like camouflage and everything like that is all trademarked by the military. And they have exclusive rights to print authentic military colors. So what you see on here, it's a real deal.
Awesome.
Cool. That is.
And then also, I would get a shot right over here in the front, because you can actually see inside here. I don't know if you can get it like towards the front right there. There you go. Yeah, they have a tank deck and everything in there too.
It's crazy. We'll have to make that.
Now you see.
Was taken on June 8th, 1944, D+2 at Omaha Beach. And it just shows you that once your beach secured, you can bring all your LSTs right up onto the shore. And yours truly, the 325, what you're on right now, it's right there.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Isn't neat?
That's wild.
And then here's a picture of our main deck, where we can hold up to 30 deuce-and-a-half or 2.5-ton trucks. And this is a picture on June 12th on our way to Utah Beach. It just shows you how full upstairs can get with all the trucks and supplies and troops as we made our way across. Crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then something else you might notice in this picture, these smokestacks that you see over here. So or ventilation stacks. But these aren't here just because we don't need them anymore. But you would need them back in World War II, because down here, the 20 Sherman tanks that are down here, they're already operating. Like they're already turned on and they're ready to go. As soon as this thing hits the beach, you're unloading those tanks. So there's a lot of smog and smoke and everything like that, and fumes from the diesel fuel, to the point where it got so bad sometimes you couldn't even see your hand in front of your face. But right above us is the elevator vehicle lift. This is what we use to get 30 deuce-and-a-half or 2.5-ton trucks up on the main deck. So how it works, there is a winch towards the front or the bow of the ship that goes around yellow wheels that you might have saw whenever we were up there on the main deck. And the yellow wheels connect to the lift, And then these yellow poles come out on either side into indentions in the deck. So there's one there, one over there, one over there, and those become the tracks that the elevator uses to come up and down. Now the bad part about this only took one truck at a time, 6 minutes per truck. As you can imagine, that's a big time eater, because once this thing hits the beach, you want to get all of your stuff onto the shore as quick as possible, because you got planes flying around shooting at you, you got MG-42s probably in towers that are shooting at you, bombers trying to get at you, a bunch of other things happening. So you want to get all of your stuff onto the beach as quick as possible. So later versions of LST's got rid of this design, and a portion of the tank deck would go up one side, make a makeshift ramp. That way it made loading and unloading a lot faster. In Vietnam, they actually came out with a brand new class of LSTs known as the Newport class. So the ramp, I'll open that back up so you can see it and you can have it for the video. But normally keep it closed at night just because we don't want birds and other stuff getting in here. But anyway, so the ramp goes up and down from here, from tank deck. So you can get vehicles on here and then they can be lifted up there and go out there. But the Newport class LSTs, their ramp is on the main deck. So it goes up and down like normal, but something else you can do is you can attach it to the back or the stern of another LST. You can make a train of LSTs if you really wanted to. Yep, so follow me over here to the front. You have close to the shore that open up the doors, 5 motors on each side. Then the ramp comes down the middle, attaches to release from the yellow things called turnbuckles you see up there in the opening. The way the doors to the ramp opened up and remind people of an alligator's mouth. So LSTs became known as the Gator Navy Amphibious Units, or the teeth of the fleets they're sometimes called. So you see pictures with gators with tanks coming out of their mouth. And that's in reference to this. That you can see right here on this medallion.
Oh, yeah.
Always love it when the military uses like animal icons for some of their divisions and everything like that. One of my favorites is in World War II, there was a group of troops that was made up from the American Southwest. So they're like Arizona, New Mexico, around that area. And they were known as the Thunderbird Division. And they had a Navajo Thunderbird for their icon. But anyway, this is all controlled today in here. Back in World War II, this would be a control room that you can still use today to open up the doors and the ramp, just like we did back in World War II. So does anyone have any questions about anything we've seen this far? Each area can hold 24 troops at one time, but on ship we can hold over 200 troops on here. And on the other side of the ship are sleeping our crew, which we had a crew of 110, including 8 officers. And you want to feel bad for the guys who wind up on these bottom bunks, especially these guys.
Yeah, I know, right?
These are mainly Army guys. They're not used to being in open waters. So with the way the LST swayed back and forth, seasickness was very common in here. Maybe that's why they painted the floor green. There's that control room. Nice Valdor ramp control room we just talked about earlier.